everyone. I am Nikki with Fulfill Your Legacy
Hey, Tim Breen, pastor of First Reformed Church in Orange City, Iowa.
blog.
Blog is tellosblog.com. Doing some writing there and conversing with people, and a good friend of mine named Jeff Peterson. We do that together.
It's awesome. Check it out. Yeah. Okay, so now we are on week 8. You guys are moving right along. This is exciting. So it's still the ancient story, and we're talking about when Moses is led out with the mass of individual slaves. And so tell us more about this. Help us understand what's going on in this part, and then we'll get to a question or two.
Yeah, so this is the Exodus story, which I said in the Core40 is maybe the most important single story in the Old Testament. And it's several chapters long. I applaud you for reading through the entire duration of it this week. It's an extended passage, but it's so important. It goes from the time in which Abraham's great-grandson Joseph brought the family of God, Abraham's family, to Egypt because of a famine. They were there for 400 years of oppression and slavery when God raised up a man named Moses. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace, and God picked him out of the desert where he was hiding as kind of a runaway criminal and said, "You are going to be the man who frees my people from Egypt and from Pharaoh." God says, "I have heard and I have seen the bondage that they're in, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to deliver them, and you're going to be my human representative to do that." And so many of us who grew up in the church have heard the stories of the crossing of the Red Sea and the 10 plagues and the Passover. This is all under this heading of deliverance, how God takes an enslaved people and makes a beautiful nation out of them. And the question I think we're going to ask is about one really hard to understand verse in this extended section.
It is. The question then is like, how are we to understand this idea that God hardened his heart?
Yeah, because as you were reading, you might have picked up on this. It says, that a plague comes and Pharaoh says, "Okay, you can go." But then God hardens Pharaoh's heart and he would not let them go. And a lot of people reading this, especially if you're new to the Bible, you come across this and you're like, I thought God wanted the people freed. Why does God harden Pharaoh's heart so that he doesn't let them go? This doesn't make any sense. And this has been kind of a stumper for me personally for a long time. And I have maybe some possibilities. It's easier to talk about maybes than it is to talk about certainlys. But there's one thing to note in this section of Scripture, and that is it talks about Pharaoh's heart hardening 20 times. And 10 of those times it says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And the other 10, it says that Pharaoh hardens his own heart. So there's kind of this commingling of the two, and kind of in the zoomed out view, we might say this is a situation where Pharaoh's heart is hardening because of multiple sort of causes. But I don't want to maybe cop out that easily, because there is these very, very specific lines that say that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Exodus 7 verses 3 to 4 is one of the classic examples of this. I think that there's a possibility in which the Bible is telling us that the work of the deliverance of God's people, the Exodus, is entirely about God, and that it would not be complete without the total fulfillment of these 10 plagues. That God is sending a message to the whole world that is not complete until all 10 of these plagues have happened. There's a lot of technical stuff in there about how these 10 plagues each kind of were a dig against one of the Egyptians' gods. So there's a possibility in that as well. But I think what God says to Moses in chapter 7 is that you go and speak, you do your part in being the speaker, and I'll do my part in running the rest of the show. All you have to do is be my spokesperson, and everything, including the stubbornness of Pharaoh, is ultimately going to be about what I'm doing to show my power in the world. So I think that is one of the possibilities. And the other possibility is to say that God hardens hearts or softens hearts in some ways directly, and in other ways maybe indirectly. So let's just say that there's two young people, and they've been going out for a while, and they have a big fight, and they don't know what the future of the relationship is. Well, what if the young man sends 24 roses to the young? How would you feel if you got 24 roses?
Oh, you don't want to ask me this. I know all the tricks.
Okay, well, so your heart would be hardened too. But maybe in the case of that young lady, that gift might soften her heart, right? So the act of the young man softens the heart of the woman. And you can imagine a situation where it would be the opposite, where you can do something and that would harden someone else's heart. Mm-hmm. Well, it might just be the situation here where with each one of these plagues, God is showing up one of the Egyptian gods, and he is just emphasizing, just laying it on, his power over Pharaoh's power. And the more that God does that, the more that hardens Pharaoh's heart to prove, God, you're not going to get me. You're not going to get me. So indirectly, the more God shows his power is actually working to harden Pharaoh's heart. God is ramping it up, ultimately so it reaches this impasse wherein, because Pharaoh's heart has been hard so long and the people of Egypt are so sick of these plagues in their land, that when Passover happens, Pharaoh says, just get out. And as we read, the people of Egypt are like giving the Israelites stuff, money, to leave the land because it has gone on this long. Might all be because God was acting to harden Pharaoh's heart, so it got to this point where it was this crisis that was only resolved through Passover and through the deliverance of the people. So kind of this indirect hardening of Pharaoh's heart that actually made God's glory in the end even greater.
Yeah, I mean, I like all of that. That's probably all the question time we have, but I just like the idea of knowing that regardless, God is under control. And all of it, even when we're feeling like things aren't right, he's got it.
Absolutely.
And just trusting in it, going with it. Can't imagine being sent out to go do this, but
neither could Moses at the beginning.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for being with us once again. We will be with you on week 9 next time.
See you then.